welcome to another episode of Let's Chat Reality. I'm Michael,
And I'm Molly.
and we are back together. So excited
Yay.
to have you back, Molly. And we are here today to talk about episode 6 of Survivor 49, as well as Love is Blind season 9. The reunion just came out a few days ago, so the full season's out now, and there's a lot to get into with that. But let's get started with Survivor, shall we?
Yes, let's do it.
All right. So we have another tribe swap to talk about. Now, we just a couple episodes ago switched from three tribes to two, and now we are back to three tribes of four players each. So we started the episode basically with this swap. So let's get into our tribes here that we have. Our new Hina is MC, Rizzo, Savannah, and Sophie. Calais, Jawan, Sage, Shannon, and Steven, and the new Uli tribe, Christina, Alex, Nate, and Sophie. So, just kind of first glance here, what did you think of this switch from two to three tribes, as well as the tribes that we have here now?
Yeah, I thought it was a good move for the most part of in terms of like we don't want to see like one tribe continuing to lose after each week. Like we were kind of starting to see that again with the swap that the same tribe was going to tribal there. So I'm kind of happy that we did get this going back to 3 and then we could see more fair competition in terms of fairness is like relative, but like in general like equal amount of people on the tribes to then see them go to the different challenges for rewards and the immunity challenge as well. So I was happy to see that and also kind of allows more people to get to know each other before the merge happens. So I thought that this was good to see that this episode. What did you think, Michael?
Yeah, I mean, look, if we have this instead of the Murgatory, whatever you want to call it, that weird stage of the new era Survivor where it's like, okay, we're merged, but we're not really merged, and then we go back from being on one camp to two different camps, and
Mhm.
we're basically merging and unmerging, and it's so complicated and unnecessary. So I will happily take this over that. I'm never a huge fan of just like switching tribes for one episode. Like I just think that it doesn't, what does it do? Like you're not going to build new relationships really that mean much of anything in one episode, which especially in this new era, which is like what, 2 days, if
Yeah.
that. So I just think that I look, I mean, I guess if we were just going to have the same tribe lose again here, then I guess that I'm glad that we avoided that from happening, and it was a good episode. So I was fine with it. I don't have any huge problem with it. I think it's a lot better than what we have had in the new era before this. I just wish that maybe we would have gone to two tribes one episode earlier, and then had two episodes with the two tribes, and then two episodes with back with the three tribes, or something like that. I don't know. I think we,
Yeah.
if you're gonna switch, at least keep it for two episodes.
Yeah, the only having it for one episode did kind of make me feel like, wait, like why is this happening now? But
Mhm.
at least like it's better than the Murgatory for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, so look, we have to we can't pick and choose our battles here.
Yeah,
Is what I would say.
exactly.
But we before we got to the reward challenge that happened right after these tribes switched, Christina started to have a little bit of a medical emergency. She had a little trouble breathing. You could tell that she was she was holding onto Sophie's hand, and it was after the medical emergency that we already had this season, it's like, oh god, let's not do this again. But she was checked out by medical, cleared to continue as normal. But what did you think about Christina's little emergency here?
Yeah, I was nervous for her, but it definitely seemed like it was more of just like in the moment with the heat and then all the change. Just her adrenaline probably just went crazy and then was just feeling like she couldn't breathe properly. So I think at least that medical was there to able to check her out and deem her fine, but it was still scary to see that.
Yeah, it definitely, Jeff has said multiple times this season already, he has talked about the heat. And look, I've never been out there. I don't know how this compares to any other season. And, some people who have been in different locations on previous seasons of Survivor have been saying like, "Oh no, my season was much hotter than this." So, who knows? But it definitely seems like this is, at least for Fiji, at least for maybe the new era, that this has been a very, very hot season. And I cannot even imagine, not having to deal with this and not being able to just go indoors for air conditioning at any time. Like, they've been out here for 2 weeks now. So that's a long time to be dealing with it if it's really this hot. And so I certainly can understand, having a little bit of a moment, especially when there's lots of things changing and going on and a lot of just kind of, stimulating, and especially with these conditions, it can all just kind of combine to make it very, very difficult. So glad she's okay.
Yes, agreed.
Well, then we do get to the reward challenge. They are competing for grilled cheese, chips, and iced tea, and brownies. I thought it was strange that he like saved the brownies for last. He was like, "Okay, here's what you're getting, and then here's what second place is getting, but then first place is also getting this." It's like we couldn't have just added brownies in with the list that you were saying before. But this seemed like a good reward. Sophie was not complaining about this reward, and I can understand that because this sounded like a very good reward for me.
Yeah, for sure. I know the brownies are the main driver I would want, so I guess maybe they were saving it the best for last. But yeah, this seemed like a really great reward to win, especially because grilled cheese can give you like the carbs and energy with that, but also the cheese and the protein of that. So that's good too.
Yes. And second place only gets the grilled cheese, which, still good, better than nothing. Hina wins this, and this means that Sophie B finally gets to eat for the first time in two
Yay.
weeks on Survivor. Yay! Very happy for her. And Uli comes in second place, getting the grilled cheese. So yeah, I think the highlight of this though was Sophie finally getting her first reward. So happy for her.
Yes. Definitely, definitely a big highlight. I love Sophie, so I'm happy to see her finally getting the nutrition she needs.
Yes. Well, then let's get to each of the camps here. So, Hina, I feel like we probably get the least from of any of the tribes in this, but we do get a scene of MC telling Rizzo that Sage told her whole tribe, in the Switch tribe, about his idol. So, I thought this was a great move for Sage at the time, and it really seemed to put her above Shannon in the pecking order on that tribe. But now Rizzo's finding out about this from MC, and so do he said he's not surprised, but do you think that this maybe, now looking back, might not be as good of a move for Sage as it seemed like at the time, and that this could potentially come bite her in the ass?
Yeah, I think there's potential for that to happen, of course. I feel like, I mean, maybe they're setting us up to believe that, maybe, but also I think Rizzo kind of took it better than I expected him to as well. So I feel like maybe he just thinks like, oh wow, like okay, not everyone just knows this is a thing. Like everyone already knew on my tribe, and then I guess it's because it was so popular that it was like known across everything that I guess it makes sense to share it with other people. So I guess maybe he just didn't care as much because of that. But maybe it just does show to him also that Sage couldn't totally be trustworthy if she would go and tell people not on the original tribe that he has that idol. So I feel like, and now we have so many variations of the tribe. So I'm like the most original Uli tribe.
I know
But
it's so hard.
yeah. So I feel like with that, like I don't know, it at least MC did tell Rizzo, so like Rizzo's at least aware of that. He wouldn't be surprised that the whole other tribe knows now. So I think that was a good move from MC.
Yeah, I think that it was a very good move from MC, especially the fact that she didn't tell him about her Beware advantage. So she was able to get information to Rizzo, and have him confirm it, of course, and build that trust there, but also keep that secret. And so I think that was a very good, smart move from MC. I don't think that it's necessarily going to come back, to bite Sage. I think that I just don't think that that's going to be a reason. Like, I think that she could easily explain that away. Is like,
Mhm.
hey, I knew that we couldn't trust Shannon. I needed a way to get them to trust me over Shannon. And I think that Rizzo and Savannah and them, I think that they would understand it. And even though
Yeah.
they were close to Shannon, so that could potentially turn them against Sage of being like, oh, they got rid of our girl who we, were expecting to have as a number at the merge. If anything, I think that's going to be what works against Sage, then this
Yeah.
move would. So I don't think that this specifically necessarily will be like a reason why Sage would go home.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, then let's move over to Uli, or new Uli tribe. So Nate's the odd man out here, as he is the only one from Swapped Kele and the only OG Uli. So he decides to lie to his tribe, saying that he was actually close with Jason, who went home last episode, and wanted to work with him, but just didn't have the numbers. There's nothing he could do about it. So this was his way of trying to show them that he's willing to be flexible, that he's not just going to go right back to Uli and be Uli strong at the merge, that he potentially would want to work together with them. So do you think that this was a good move by Nate, and do you think that this will help him any come the merge next week?
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, like, no one else was there to believe what his story was, if it's true or not. So I think in this moment, it's going to work for him. I don't know if it will work in the long run because then other people will be like, no, Nate wasn't trying to work with Jason there. So I don't know if it will come up again, but I think for now, like, at least it kept him showing that he was like actually able to work with other people.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think if they went to tribal this episode, I think he would have gone home. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
that this was going to save him, but I think that it wasn't going to hurt him either. Like, there's no downside to doing that unless they just think, well, I don't believe him, and the fact that he is trying to convince us of this is showing that he's not being honest with us. Like, I think there could be logic there that maybe it would hurt him, but I just think he had to do something, and this was, I think, as smart of a move as I can't think of anything else that he could have done to save
Yeah.
himself, really. So unless he was able to find a crack somewhere, but especially early on, as he's just kind of having these early conversations, I think that this was probably the smartest thing he could do.
Agreed.
Well, then Christina and Sophie agree that the vote would still have to be on Nate, but that they do need to make him feel comfortable so that he doesn't use his shot in the dark. So Christina tells Sophie that they're going to use her name as the decoy to Nate as who they would vote off here. But this makes Sophie pretty worried. The fact that they would be willing to put her name out there, even with it just being a decoy. And it feels like she's expendable to Christina. So, if you were the decoy vote, and you're being told by your alliance that, hey, we're going to use your name, would that be something that would upset you? Would it worry you that you're kind of at the bottom of the pecking order, or does it just not matter, it has to be someone?
Yeah, I mean, with this few amount of people, I think it's hard to like. It's only four people in the total tribe at this point that it's kind of hard to choose, I guess, someone of your alliance to write down. So if it has to be anyone, like I don't know, like how Christina would come up with that, but like like it's more just it kind of just has to happen. Like I don't know if Sophie needs to be that worried about her feeling like her safety is a question there, but I don't know. It just, I mean, we didn't even get to see it happen, so I guess it doesn't really matter at this point, also. But it was interesting just to see those conversations. But I do think that it was just going to be Nate to go home.
Yeah, I don't think that necessarily Sophie was or needed to be worried that it was going to be her this week.
Yeah.
I think that the bigger problem is like, okay, well, once Nate's out, or once we get to the merge and we have to look at each other, am I going to be the first one who y'all are going to look at? Am I seen as the most expendable of our alliance, of our tribe? Because you're choosing me where it could be someone else. There are a couple of other options. Why me? And I do think that, look, there's four people, like, it does have to be somebody. So don't know in a tribe this small that I would necessarily think that much of it. But I do think if, let's say, this was a tribe of 6 and I'm the one that you chose, that would make me feel a certain type of way, probably, where I'd be like, okay, that's one of those subconscious things that you don't think really means anything. And it's just kind of like a small thing. Like, yeah, you're the decoy. You're not, we're not really thinking anything of it. But like, why am I the first name that you thought of? Why would you pick me over so and so? So I think that in theory it could mean something, but in a tribe this small, I don't know that I would think too hard about it.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, then let's move over to Kelly. So we have Steven and Jawan are meeting for the first time, and they instantly bond. They form a very good connection, it seems like. And Jawan, though, still wants to stay OG Uli strong and vote Steven out. So despite their bond, it's still got to be Steven that's the one to go here. But for Jawan, like in Jawan's position, he's always been at the bottom. Do you think that he should be looking more towards someone like Steven and like, okay, Steven's a lone soldier here. Maybe I can connect with him and try to make something happen? Or is it better for him to just be like, let's do the easy vote here and vote him out if need be?
Yeah, I think Jawan definitely should be working with Steven more. I think every time I see him being like, "Oh yeah, I'm just gonna stay really strong," I'm like, "No, don't do that," because the original. At least we know the original Ulis like they wanted him out also. So I feel like he should just be able to be more flexible with that and not think like, okay, like they still want me here because they probably don't. Like, like you should pretend like everyone wants you out and then work with people who don't want you out. And because at that point, like Stephen definitely would work with Juwan because he was gonna be the one to go home if no one else worked with him. So I think with that, he should have been working with Stephen more.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that Jawan really knows how much at the bottom he was at
Yeah.
original Uli and has continued to be for certain people from that tribe.
Yeah.
That's my feeling about it. Maybe I'm wrong. Like maybe he does know and he's just thinking, well, you know, let's just kind of keep going as long as possible until I have to worry about that. I don't know, but from what I gather, I don't think that he realizes it. Like I don't think that he knows that Savannah
Yeah.
is as annoyed about everything the bag and everything with the being in listening in on conversations and using all her stuff or water bottle or whatever it was that he was using. I i I don't think that he realizes that that really truly annoys her to the point of wanting to vote him out. And so that's my guess, is that he thinks that really can continue to work with them for a while and there's no reason to go against them. But I wonder if come the merge, maybe there's other people who are aware from other tribes who are aware of how at the bottom he is on Uli, that maybe would be able to pull him in and tell him about the conversations that they've had with people about Jawan, and that maybe that can turn him against the rest of the OG Uli tribe. So I'll be interested to see come the merge how that all goes down. But for now, I can understand based on the information he has, wanting to just make the easy vote and get Steven out.
Yeah, for sure. That makes sense. I mean, he doesn't know. Obviously, we're seeing like the behind the scenes stuff of like a Shannon talking, or not Shannon, Savannah talking to us, like the camera, not us, but like talking to the producers about how she wants to get Joanne out. So obviously, he doesn't have that same knowledge that we do. So we're just like, no, Joanne, don't do this, but he doesn't know
Mhm.
fully. So
Yeah.
it makes
And I
sense.
wonder, like, I feel like last episode, I think I was talking about this, that I think a lot of what Savannah was saying last week's episode was kind of just more in the moment frustration
Hmm.
rather than actually, like, at the end of the day, is she going to vote out Joanne over Jason? Like, no, I don't think that she would have ever really done that. I think it was more so like, this was just happening probably like right before this interview that she had, and she just like needs to get her frustration out. But then once she sleeps on it, once a little time has passed, like it's like, okay, this isn't actually good for my game. I need to put the personal aside and vote more strategically. So I don't even know if maybe some of how much Jawan is at the bottom and needs to be worried is a little like played up for us versus really was ever going to happen in the moment.
Yeah. No, yeah, that makes sense.
Well, let's move over to Shannon because Shannon, of course, is a big part of these episodes. So she wants to reconnect with Sage now that they are yet again on the same tribe together. Third time, third swap, third time that the two of them are on the tribe together. So Sage still does not trust her, though. She wants to vote Shannon out. This is not changed for weeks and weeks now. What do you think about this? Like, do you think Shannon is being genuine here about wanting to reconnect with Sage, or is it just a matter of, oh, we were at the bottom before, Sage was the one that needed to work against, and now that we are on a tribe where that's not necessarily the situation, we're not on the bottom, oh, now it's convenient for me to go back and be buddy buddy with Sage.
Yeah, I don't believe it. I feel like Shannon's just trying to project that she wants to work with her just so that she stays safe. But I think Sage just sees right through it, and then obviously we see what happens. But with Sage not trusting Shannon and wanting her out, like I think with that, like it made sense for Sage's game. I think and maybe not what we're saying. Maybe it will in the end not be the best because of what's gonna happen when she meets back with the rest of Uli, but I think right now, like in this part of the game, at least what we've seen, like I think that it was the right move to want to get Shannon out.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I don't. I think that as soon as they're in a situation again where Shannon, it's more convenient and necessary for her to turn on Sage, she's going to do it. Like, I don't think that this is genuine in that way. I do think that Shannon probably does really like Sage and would like to work with her. I think that in the last tribe, just the way that it worked out, Sage was the only other person who potentially was going in danger if they were to go to tribal that would be voted out over her. So I think she kind of had no choice but to be willing to turn on her. But I think Sage has every right to know that that was the case, that Shannon was turning on her and not going to trust her again moving forward and wants to get her out. Like, I fully do not blame Sage whatsoever for that. I also, to be fair to Shannon, turning on Sage was probably her best move. So I can't fault her for that, but I can't also fault Sage for knowing that that was happening and trying to make that move first against Shannon.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Because it was just both of them going at each other basically, and it just whoever could get there first.
Exactly. Well, Rizzo thinks that there may be an advantage hidden on their beach, and he goes to search with Sophie and Savannah. Sophie ends up finding knowledge's power advantage, which we have not seen since early in the new era. So it's been a while. Well, we saw it on A versus the World, but that different franchise. And she decides to keep it a secret. So even her close allies, Savannah and Rizzo, she does not tell that she found this. And do you think that that was the right move, or is this something that is more powerful potentially if you have more people who know that you have it and can work with you to use it correctly?
I think it makes sense for Sophie not to tell anyone just because it is such a big power to have that you don't know who's going to share it with other people and then it could ruin that advantage. So I think Sophie did the right thing in terms of just keeping it to herself because I want it to be a surprise when everyone finds out also for when she uses it. Hopefully it's a big thing that when it happens, but I think for now, like it's definitely a good thing to keep it secret.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this is one of those things where she can keep it a secret for now. And then later on, if she decides that maybe she's in danger, she needs to use it, but maybe at that time she doesn't know who has an idol, then
Mhm.
she can decide at that point, okay, maybe I can just tell my allies at that point, oh, I just found this. Like maybe I found it at the challenge or at a reward or at a whatever. Like, just stumbled across it yesterday. Like they don't need to know how long she's had it. And she can say, okay, I need to use this right now. Like, do y'all have any information that I don't about where the idol is, and that we can use this together? Like, who knows? I think she's absolutely right to say, like, look, Rizzo and Savannah are my allies right now, but come the merge, everything can change. Like, this is the worst time to guess who's going to be your allies. Like, wait a
Yeah.
couple days at least, and then once we get to the merge and we kind of know things, like, okay, maybe there's a more clear picture of these are the people that I'm going to be working with moving forward. So I don't blame her at all for keeping it a secret for now, and I'm so happy that she has it because we love Sophie, and I
Yes.
hope that this can help her to make a long run in this game.
Yes, definitely.
Well, then we get to the immunity challenge, and Kelly loses. So back at camp, Shannon decides that she wants to move forward with Steven instead of Jawan because Jawan has the same connections she has on these tribes. He can't help her to be closer to anyone that she's not already close with. Whereas Steven does have other connections and he can help her to potentially, build bridges with other people and at the merge be in a better position. So what do you think about this plan from Shannon here? And do you think she's right to be kind of thinking in that way in terms of who she's going to vote out here?
I mean, I guess overall, yeah, it makes sense from Shannon's perspective in terms of like she wants more connections across other tribes, so Joanne's not going to give her that. But I felt like when this started coming up that I was like, okay, I think this isn't going to actually happen. But it's interesting because now it's also targeting Joanne again. So I was like, Joanne, if you don't flip, like something is up with you because he needs to know that not that his original tribe doesn't really want him there. But I mean, for some of them that do, but like not all of them. And so with Shannon planning that, I feel like it wasn't really gonna work, but it was good in practice.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's a good strategy. Like, I think it's good logic in
Yeah.
order to look ahead in the game. I don't know that. I just think that it's hard. I don't know who would have gone with her in that plan, and so I think that's the hard part. Is like, okay, it's good, like you said, it's good in theory. I just don't know that, yeah, like in practice, that they would be able to pull it off because I don't. She thinks she's so much closer with Sage than she is, and so it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's the only problem with it is that I just what we know that Sage would never go with it, but I think she thinks she's close with Sage, and so I guess I can understand that logic from her perspective, and I do think that it makes sense, but yeah, it was never going to work because, of course, she does tell Sage about the plan, and she does tell her to her face that she is with it, good to go along with it. But of course, we hear from Sage is confessional that she does still plan to blindside Shannon. So she's going to work on that plan while Shannon works on her plan, and we see now who's going to come out ahead.
Yeah, I know. I was excited to see that. I was like, okay, now Sage, what do you have cooking up here?
Yeah. Well, Sage tells her plan to Jawan and informs him that Shannon is throwing his name out, which, very smart. That's a good thing that she knows that information, and it's true. So she's able to tell Jawan true information in order to get him to come around to voting Shannon out. So he is torn about whether to pull the trigger on getting Shannon out or keeping Uli's number strong to vote Steven. So at this point, it seems like even with Shannon's plan to vote out Jawan, it does feel more like it's either going to be Steven or Shannon that gets voted out here going into tribal.
Yeah, I know. It was interesting to see that Jawan still wasn't sure on what he wanted to do here, even though he knew factual information from Sage about Shannon throwing out his name. But I guess the Uli Strong just still stays in his brain.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I get it. Again, he doesn't know how on the bottom he was an OG Uli, so it's like, okay, we have all our numbers still. We could go into the merge with our numbers, and it's like, why are we voluntarily destroying that advantage?
Mhm.
But is it really an advantage if none of them want to, there's all this infighting and they all want to get each other out. Like, should we take out the person who is potentially not going to be working with us moving forward so that the rest of us can stay strong? So I understand how that's can be a difficult decision for Jawan here.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's definitely hard to decide there.
Yeah. Well, he does decide though, and he decides to vote out Shannon. So Shannon is blindsided seemingly in a vote of 3-1. She takes it really well though, to her credit, and she hugs everybody, but well, she tries to hug everybody because as soon as she goes to try to hug Sage on the way out, Sage shakes her hand instead and says that she doesn't think she can give her a genuine hug right now. This moment was very uncomfortable, but I kind of loved it, of course, because this is classic Survivor. This is something that we really don't see much in the new era where everybody is such a big super fan that they all take their votes and blindsides really well instead of being bitter. And so this isn't something that we see very often, but I loved it.
I know. I was excited to see that when I saw Sage and want to hug her at the end there. I was like, yes, go Sage. But it was interesting just to see Shannon be so positive. I guess is also like, okay, like she's all spiritual and everything. So she's just like, okay, like this is my time. But I was happy to see this blind side actually play out because I was getting tired of seeing Shannon. So I'm happy with this result.
Yeah, no, I was too. I was very happy with the result, and I thought it was interesting because I think we probably, at least I thought, oh, Shannon's going to be the one to potentially be bitter and not take this well. But it was Sage, the one that
Yes.
was safe, not voted out. That's kind of an unusual situation that the person who's not voted out, who gets her way in the blind side, is the one who was more bitter in the situation. So, but it does seem like, they spoke after the season. Shannon has said in her exit press, so they are good. And I am glad to hear that because I think we want to see the fun on TV. We want to see the bitterness on camera. But I think it's always better when it stays on camera, it stays on the island. And then once they get home, things are all fine. I think that's always more fun when okay, it's all good.
Yes, for sure. So that was a good ending. I feel like with they're at least on the show itself. At least it's good to know that they're on good terms in person now.
Yeah. Well, I think that does it, unless there's anything that we missed that you wanted to bring up, Molly. I think that does it for Survivor. So let's move on to some Love is Blind.
Yes. So Love Is Blind season 9 just wrapped up. We got the reunion this past week, and this season was filmed in Denver. And for the first time ever, we had no couples get married. So
Spoiler alert.
yeah, spoiler alert. Hopefully you're all caught up. But that was a crazy season, I feel like as a whole. I feel like with in terms of the dating and like the pods, like and then they go to Mexico and everything that happened, it kind of led me to think that nothing was gonna actually be sustainable because of the conversations people were having and just overall it didn't seem everyone was really that compatible with their partners. But I did still enjoy the season as a whole. Like Love Is Blind is still one of my favorite shows to watch, even if it doesn't always end in a successful marriage. I feel like it's still an enjoyable show as a whole. So I still like the season. But what were your thoughts overall, Michael?
Yeah, well, first of all, before we get into the season, how crazy is it that our very first episode of this podcast was talking about season 4 of Love is Blind? And every
Yeah.
time we cover it, watch Love is Blind and cover it on the pod, it reminds me of the way that this podcast started way back when.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of crazy that that's been 5 seasons later now. And yeah, I enjoyed the season overall. I would say a lot more than last season. Last season to me was like the bottom of the barrel. This one was a lot better, and at least in the drama department, and also I think in the pacing of the season. It felt like we didn't quite spend as much time in the pods, which I think was very good. And it did feel like the episodes were a little bit more condensed. They weren't as drawn out, and so I appreciated that. I feel like they did take notes in some of the way that they at least laid out the season. But yeah, I did enjoy it. I think that it was a more eventful season. Like I feel like we have more to talk about than we did last year. So to me, it was more successful, at least in that regard, if it wasn't as successful in actual producing couples lasting.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I remember thinking when I was watching it, I was like, "Oh, Michael's gonna be happy that there weren't that many pod episodes."
I was.
Because
It's my
yeah,
least favorite part of the season.
yeah, and they kind of were boring to me this year too this season, at least. I was like, "Wait, why am I not enjoying these pods anymore?"
I think it's like, okay, to me, there's two types of people. There's the people like on American Idol, for instance, that only watch the auditions. They love the auditions, they love seeing the bad auditions, and that's the best part of the season for them. And then they kind of check out after that part of the show. And then there's people like me who just want to get past the auditions. Like, I think, I don't know, 3, 4 episodes of auditions is usually plenty for me, and then let's move on. I don't need to see the same thing over and over again, and I think that that's the problem to me with the pods is it's like, okay, it's the gimmick of the show, it's what makes the show unique, I get that, but I think we can cut it at, like, 3 episodes of pods. Like, I don't think that we need to see every little conversation about nothing and them playing basketball and painting art and whatever they might be doing in the pods. I don't need to see it.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I feel like it just like especially in this show, there's so much that happens after the pods that I want to see more of that than just like their initial conversations about really nonsense stuff. Like the drama, I like seeing the drama of it of like if they're dating two people and then like one person's finding out like that, like the love triangles and all of that is interesting when it's the pods.
Mhm.
But other than that, it's really just let's get to the good stuff.
Yeah, because it's like to me, none of it is going to matter. Once they
Yeah.
leave the pods, like nobody is making their decision of whether they're going to stay together based on anything that happened in the pods. And that's I
Mhm.
think the issue that I have with it is like as I'm watching it, I'm like, none of this matters. Like, and none of it, like, I want to see their, the highlights of their story of how they picked each other and the important conversations that are going to make a difference. And if they pick this person over this person that they're also seeing, like, let's just kind of see the highlights, see what matters, and then let's move on to the parts that are actually going to make a difference once they actually meet each other and are living together and the decisions that are going to determine whether they actually decide to get married.
Yeah, for sure. So, shall we get into the specific couples we saw from this season and then like kind of go through their journeys and then also reunion updates that we got?
Yeah, but I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you think that because this season, like we said, had no successful relationships that came from it. So, do you think that that matters in terms of your enjoyment for the season now looking back? Like, do you feel like you wasted your time watching this season because nobody stayed together? Or does that not really. Is that not an important factor for you in ranking a season of Love is Blind?
I don't think it's that important for me just because I like it for the people, necessarily always the couples. Like I like certain like liking people of this season. So if they don't last in a specific couple, then I still will enjoy the season if I like certain like people on the show in general. So I feel like I don't regret watching this season, even though it wasn't successful in terms of the marriage aspect of it. But we did get a lot of interesting characters, so that was fun. And I think with that also it'll be fun to continue to see like what these people's updates are and like the drama. I feel like the drama won't really be stopping anytime soon in terms of how we got on the reunion. I was like, wow, like what's happening here? So I think with that it made me still enjoy it. What about you?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. I don't. That does not play a factor to me in terms of where I'm going to rank a season of.
Yeah.
Like, it's like The Bachelor. Do I care if the Bachelor stayed with their winner? No, I don't really. Like I'm not going to look back on a season of The Bachelor and say, oh well, I loved this season at the time, but they ended up not staying together with the person they picked at the end of it. So now I wish I hadn't watched it at all. Like, but I've seen a lot of people saying that online about this season. It's like, why did I watch it? Love isn't blind. We've determined that this year. But to me, like, it's like, okay, sure, but that's not why I'm watching. I'm watching for the drama. I'm watching it for the mess, and I think we did get a decent amount of that this season. So I enjoyed it regardless of what the outcome was.
Yeah. For sure. So now let's get into the couples. Let's start off with Jordan and Sparkle Megan. So their relationship was interesting. I felt like from the beginning, like you could see there was initial spark there between the two of them when they were in the pods, but then it kind of always felt like Megan would just look down upon Jordan in certain ways, like the fact that he doesn't make as much as her, and he's also a single father, and there's a lot that comes with that. I think with their lifestyles and everything, it just wasn't going to be compatible. So, of course, obviously, we already said no couples get married. So they don't get married. They do go up to, or they're the only ones of the like people who were final, like go or who were going to go to the weddings who didn't go to the weddings. Like I thought they were going to go up to the altar, but then Megan broke up with Jordan before that, which I respected her for that. I feel like that was good that at least she knew like beforehand. Like I feel bad for those couples that go up and then they say no and it's like embarrassing for the other person. So at least that was good. So Jordan didn't have to get ready and think he was gonna get married and then not. But I really like Jordan, and I think that he is like such a wholesome guy from this season. Most of the guys I feel like all liked him, or everyone probably. It seemed like everyone likes Jordan a lot, so that's also a good tell. And Megan, she was fun, a different kind of personality. I feel like that we've seen before, so she was also a good addition to this season. But just they weren't going to work together. What were your thoughts, Michael?
Yeah, I really like Jordan. He was probably my favorite of the guys this season. And I liked Megan. I think that I didn't have strong feelings about her, I guess. I didn't really like her in the pods, actually, I think, as
Yeah,
much. She annoyed me in the pods more than she did outside of the pods. But yeah, I really thought that they were at the very least going to make it to the altar. So I was kind of shocked when they had this breakup scene before that. And to me, their relationship was one of those where it was like, oh, we're seeing some of this drama, but like it's because they just have to show us something. Like, because there was nothing like major that went wrong in their relationship. Like, I really thought, especially when the rumors came out that she had a baby, I was like, oh, she is with Jordan and they had a baby together. Like, that was what I just assumed happened. And I think Jordan did like a podcast or something before the finale came out, and he seemed really happy talking positively about Megan. So I think a lot of people assumed based off of that they were still together. So this really did kind of throw me through a loop a little bit, the fact that they broke up here. But yeah, I like them. I think that they could have worked if Megan had been a little bit more open minded
yeah,
and willing to give it a shot, like give it a really fair shot. I think that they could have made it work, but I think that she was just too in her head about it and was too scared with Luca being a factor. I think that she was too scared to take the risk that she was going to be a part of his life and then it wasn't going to work. She was going to be unhappy, he was going to be unhappy, and then it would be a lot harder once Luca really was connecting with her. So I appreciate the fact that she cut it when she did, even though she had met him. It was not anything where he was really, really connected with her yet. So I think it was a good time. If she didn't see it working, cut it off now.
yeah, for sure. And in the reunion, we did see how Jordan addresses how he said how he regretted introducing Megan to his son Luca because stability at that age is really important. So at least Jordan kind of explained he was like, well, I think in that moment, like he was just hurt all around that he shouldn't have done it. I guess if wasn't so sure about him kind of thing, but in general like so he just wanted to make sure whoever he introduces to his son is going to be someone who could stay around, and with Megan obviously that wasn't the case. So I think that's why, or at least that's what he was explaining, to why he said that in that interview at that moment that he was regretting it.
Mhm. Yeah, and I get that. You
Yeah.
know, it's one of those things that you say in the moment because you're trying to protect him, and now that time has passed, I'm sure he's like, okay, Luke is fine. That it's fine that we introduced him, and it all worked out. But I get that in the moment why he would have said that.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't fault him for that at all. But then, as you already said, Megan does have a son who she does recently gave birth to, not too long ago, because she got pregnant 3 months into dating her boyfriend Paul, who she is still with, and they now live together as well, raising their newborn. I don't know how old he is at this point, but at least a few months.
Yeah.
But she kept it totally private. So except one person from the pods knew about it, but everyone else was shocked and they were like, "Oh wow, like this is why you've gained weight." But like they were not hiding that.
That's
But
crazy to me that she was able to hide that from everybody on the show, or most people on the show. Like, that is crazy. You would think that they talk all the time, especially leading up to when the show was going to come out. The fact that, like, these are the only people that I can really talk about this with, because nobody else is supposed to know anything yet. So I would think that that would be a really, really hard secret to keep for her.
yeah, no, but it was impressive, honestly, that she did that. And I mean, then other girls were saying how Megan just kind of went silent and like they didn't know what happened. So they're like, okay, this makes sense now.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's crazy how much she just didn't talk to anyone. Like I would be shocked. I don't know if I could do that, like keep it secretive like that. Like that's crazy. But she wanted to keep it private just so that the news wouldn't go out there, and just like to keep it private for herself, and having that, knowing that she now was in the spotlight, like wanting to still have like her own experience without others knowing. So that was good. At least she got that, got what she wanted out of that.
Yeah, because the more people you tell, it's like you never know who's going to like. Probably nobody from the show would, would say anything to a media outlet or whatever, sell the story. But you never know if you tell somebody from the show who then tells their good friend, from outside of the show, and that person decides, "Ooh, I have this juicy piece of information that I can sell to whatever media outlet and get a bunch of money," and you know you never know. So I think you have to really, if you really want to keep something a secret, you have to be very careful with who you tell in that world. So I applaud her for being discreet enough to not say anything to anybody who ended up leaking it.
Yeah, definitely. I was happy for her for that. And now she's a new mom, so that's exciting.
Yeah, and
But then
especially exciting because she said at the end that she didn't
yeah,
know if she, was ready to be a mom, or so I think that that was a really good ending to that story.
yeah, for sure. It came full circle.
Yes.
And we also get some clarity in hearing that she did go on a couple dates with Mike after the show ended, but then there wasn't a connection there. And then she also got drinks with Blake, and then he apologized to her for leaving slash ghosting in the pods. So I think with that, at least we heard that at least she did talk to them again, which I feel like everyone kind of wants to know, like if you still talk to people that you were in the pods with, or dating, and what happens after the show if you don't end up with the person you get engaged to. So that was interesting. I mean, nothing happened of it, but at least interesting to know that they did go on dates.
Yeah, and I'm not surprised that it didn't work with Mike.
Yeah.
I did not get a good vibe from Mike really in the pod, so that doesn't shock me. But Blake, it seems like everybody really likes, and that I watched a little interview with him. He seems like a really good guy, and it did seem like it was just a hard time for him, and that he realized that this wasn't going to work for him, and I don't think he fully thought ahead enough to be like, oh, I should say goodbye. I think he just was kind of like, I need to get out of here. And I don't even know if they gave him that option. I wouldn't be shocked if Love is Blind was like, okay, you can leave, but like, you're gone. Like, we're going to make a drama out of this, the fact that you didn't say goodbye. So I would not be surprised if that was not given to him as an option. And so it seems like all is good with both of them. So, you know, happy about that.
Yeah. For sure. So that wraps us up about Jordan and Sparkle Megan. So let's go into Casey and Patrick. So they did get engaged from the pods, but then they don't end up going to Mexico. So their relationship was seeming to be pretty rocky, I feel like, from the start almost. Like of them dating, there were always, I feel like, some things that I think that weren't totally aligned with them that I kind of I definitely saw this breakup coming, but I didn't know how soon it would happen. So having it happen like right immediately like was kind of shocking in some ways, but then we also see how like Casey was saying she wasn't sure she was attracted to him, so that obviously proving love is not blind. So I feel like with that, their relationship just wasn't gonna work. But overall, like I really like Patrick, and I hope he finds love. Casey, I feel like she needs some maturing somewhat in terms of knowing what she wants and not stringing others along. But overall, I think that they're both onto better things. I'm sure of like not being together is definitely for the best.
Oh yeah. No, I had a hard time with Patrick during the show a little bit because I felt like I did obviously feel bad for him with everything that the way Casey ended it, but I also felt like okay, he would not have even given Casey a chance if Anna hadn't left. Now,
Hmm.
I didn't realize that she was only there for 3 days. I believe is what he was said a couple times on their reunion. So I was like, okay, in that case, he had a full week with just Casey. Like, I can understand then how maybe he didn't fully give her a chance for the first couple days, and then Anna left, and then that did give him plenty of time to build that connection with Casey.
Hmm.
So I'm like, okay, I do see that a little bit more, and I can appreciate how hurt Patrick was then at the end of it, and I can fully feel more bad for him about how that all happened. Um, but yeah, with Casey, I think I can I do feel for her a bit because it's like I think that when those doors open, if you really truly are not attracted to somebody, how awkward. Like I don't know how anyone handles that. Like
Yeah.
that's a bad situation where it's like, ooh, okay, this isn't what I expected. I know that we're on a show about Love is Blind and the looks not being a factor, but sometimes you don't even know until you are in that moment and you see someone and it's like, ooh, maybe they are a factor more than I thought they were. She handled it horribly. Like, she
Yeah.
couldn't have handled it worse, I don't think. Because she just completely lied to him and made him believe that there was going to be more of a chance afterwards that they were just going to date off camera and had no intention seemingly of really ever doing that, just kind of tried to get him out of the way and then not have a conversation with him. And so yeah, I think I think that Casey handled it terribly, and I felt really bad for Patrick. But there is a part of me that does feel bad for the position that Casey was in, because I don't think that's an easy position to be in where something's not going to work and you just don't have the courage to be honest with him, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And yeah, with obviously cameras in your face, you don't want to just be like, okay, I don't want this person at all. Like that's not the best situation either. So I think yeah, it just wasn't great on either part. Because what Casey was trying to say about like, oh, you're dating Anna, like I guess we got some clarity on that though with Patrick saying how it wasn't that long. of time that he was actually talking to her, but it's still in Casey's mind. She thought she was second, which isn't also a good
Yeah.
feeling to have that. But in the reunion, we get some interesting segments with them talking. I feel like overall we got a lot from them here, which was interesting. Also, some parts I was like, this is kind of cringy. But Patrick did say it was hurtful to see Casey's comments on TV about why she ended things, since she's never said those directly to him. But Casey was trying to back that up and saying that she was trying to protect him. So I guess in that way, it kind of made me forgive Casey in some regard related to that. But still, I think Patrick was just like, okay, like I didn't need to see that.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, I can't say I feel bad for Casey because I think she
Yeah,
did this to herself. Like, she handled it. She chose the way that she was going to handle it. I I think that I she was put in a tough position, like I said, but I think that she didn't do herself any favors at all, and I feel terrible for Patrick that, like, how do you not, at least when you get back, like, let's say you handle, okay, she handles it the way that she handles it, and then you get back home, and then he wants to have a conversation because you made him believe that you wanted to continue dating, and then you're not willing to have that conversation with him. Like, you know what you said, you know
yeah,
that on TV he is going to see the fact that you lied to him, and or at least there's a chance. You don't know how they're going to cut it, but at least there is a good chance because you said it on camera
yeah,
that you did not find him attractive. And how do you not then say, look, I didn't know how to say it on camera, I didn't know how to have this conversation on camera, and I didn't, it was too serious and, delicate of a conversation to have on camera, but here's what I, here's the situation. I really don't think this is going to work out. Like, it just wasn't what I thought. I don't know. I don't know how you say that, but I just think that there has to, you have to at least be willing to have that conversation with him and apologize and end things amicably, and not just be like, no, I'm not ready, when you're the one who, you know, we're here because of you.
yeah, exactly. And I didn't expect them to like actually still talk or try to talk afterwards. Like, I guess just because of the situation they're in, like there's so much pressure with that. So then Patrick wanted to talk to Casey on the phone right away after that. But then she wanted more time to process. And then a couple days later, he texted her that he just wanted to be friends and wanted the ring back. But then Casey still had the ring. So there was that drama. And we get the whole ring segment. But before that, what were your thoughts on the phone conversation, or wanting to talk on the phone and then Patrick texting her?
Yeah, like, of course you want to talk on the phone with her. Like, that's the problem with her saying, like, I feel like in the moment she should have just said, rather than like, I want to keep dating, just so outside of the cameras. I think that she should have just said, like, look, I this is all too much for me right now. I you know I this isn't the right place for me to find my partner. Like, I'm so sorry. I think you're a great guy. I just don't think that I can do this. Not make him believe, like, yes, let's continue this, just not on the show. Like, I think she just needed to say something that would indicate to him, like, no, this is over. Like, maybe if you don't want to say that it's because of his looks, which I get that. I don't know how you say that to somebody, but just say something that doesn't make him feel like this is still going to, that they're still going to be together outside of this. Like, at least just actually cut it off so that then you don't have to have that conversation later, or be just an awful person and, say that and then ghost him, like it seems like she kind of did.
Yeah, no, yeah, that wasn't good on Casey's part. Like, it just didn't seem like she handled it right in that regard. But I mean, it's it's a weird situation to be in, and like you can't talk to really many people about it. Probably also because it's like you're under contract. So overall, it's just not a great situation there.
Yeah. I
But
think the more that I think about it, just don't say on camera to anybody that you don't want him because like that you're not attracted to him. Like that's an inside thought maybe. Like you just
Yeah.
don't say that to anyone. Like the public can speculate all they want, but don't say that to producers at all. Period. Like I think that's the big issue. It's like okay, you were willing enough to say it to somebody, just not to him. Just like you know think it all you want, but just don't give some other reason to producers. Say the same thing to producers that you said to him. I don't know. Like that's the bad part. It's just like don't admit that.
Yeah. No, that's definitely something you wanna keep to yourself, or to some close friends, but
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
not to the rest of the world, because that is now all of what we think about in terms of their relationship is that she just wasn't attracted to him, but there were obviously other issues there. Um, so and also about the ring at the reunion, this was like such a big thing about who's getting the ring back and who deserves the ring. And then they're like, oh, it's actually Netflix production, whatever. Like they kind of try to make
Mhm.
that as a joke. But I was like, no, like this is weird. But Casey said that Patrick had told her to keep the ring, but that Patrick then clarifies and says that he said that when he was under the impression that they were still going to date off the show. But Casey did bring the ring with her to the reunion, and then after much deliberation, she does give it back to him. And then just immediately after that, they have to play some game of basketball, and whoever wins this game of basketball then gets to keep the ring. And somehow Casey actually beats Patrick here, and she keeps the ring now. So she didn't even give it up. Like she gave it for maybe 2 minutes, and then now she gets it back. So that was an interesting part of this reunion. I was like, why was it necessary to have this whole conversation about who gets the ring for just Casey to have it right back?
This was 5 minutes of my life I'll never get back. I don't. I watch Love Is Blind because I'm not watching sports.
I know, and I was texting you, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I love basketball," but then I didn't realize that was gonna be like this whole game of who gets the ring.
Yeah. No, not for me. Send it back in the mail.
I know they definitely did not need this segment, but we got the ring drama from
Yeah.
it.
Okay. This is a couple that was on like 3 episodes of the show. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, this was a big moment at the time, but like, this feels like a millennium ago that this whole thing happened, and it's like this is such a huge part of this reunion that I'm like, okay, let's get to the stuff that happened in the last 5, 6 episodes.
yeah, I know. They spent definitely too much time on them. I feel like in this reunion.
Yeah, like I'm glad they were there. I did want
Yeah.
updates. I wanted them to have a conversation. It just didn't need to be like half of the reunion.
No, definitely not. But then we do have Joe and Madison to get to. So their relationship, I feel like from the beginning, I never really thought it would last. So I was surprised it made it as far as it did, to be honest. Because another situation where when they had the reveal, like we kind of got from Joe his opinion of Madison saying like, oh, he had never been with someone who was like not as skinny or not like not super skinny before or like like that different the stereotypes of body image. So I feel like that maybe had a factor in some things, but also he said it didn't later on. But I feel like in general, if that was his initial thought that he was like, oh, I've never been with someone who's not as skinny as I'm used to, like, like it's definitely not the best. But Madison was great. I love Madison. I think that she's a fun person and really good for TV. She's got a lot of emotions. Joe just needs to mature. And he was annoying me. But overall, I think it was fun to watch their relationship, even if it did not end up well. But in the meantime of us watching the season of it, it was good.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this couple was never going to work. I think that Joe very quickly, I think you could tell at the Mexico trip that
Yeah.
Joe was just not sure how to handle it because, in my opinion, it seemed like I think that Joe, similarly to Casey, was kind of like, ooh, I'm not attracted to her. and I don't know how to handle that. And how Joe handled it was different than what Casey did. I think that Joe handled it better by never saying that out loud. And well, when I say he handled it better, I mean he, he handled it by getting very drunk. Maybe I don't know if he was any other substances were involved, but he was like passed out, and then went back to his room, and Madison tried to see if he was okay, and Joe was clearly on, not okay. And that was a really weird moment. Like, that was one of the
Yeah.
strangest interactions in Love is
Oh,
Blind
yeah.
history.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that I was surprised to hear that they actually like got together for drinks afterwards and then made out. And I don't know, I was like, okay, well, maybe I'm wrong. Like, maybe this whole time I was reading this wrong, because if he really like just kind of wanted this to be over and really like was kind of checked out from the Mexico trip on, then why would they hook up again? And so maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but that's kind of how I read it, was that he was just kind of going through the motions and trying to make it last as long as possible, and hoping that maybe he would change his mind and that something would happen, but then just kind of couldn't go through with it once things got more serious and they were really like inching towards the wedding and tux fitting and really getting close to that. And then he just kind of had to call it quits because he realized, like, this is getting too serious, and I am not this isn't for me right now.
Yeah, all the times he was getting drunk and, like, kind of belligerent, like, it just didn't seem like if he wanted to be there and, like, be there with Madison, like, I think he would've cared more about how he was perceived and, like, Madison was trying to be there for him, and he was just like, "No, I don't need anything," like, trying to be snappy, it almost seemed like, or,
Mhm.
like, not accepting any of the help or, like, not even help, but just, like, what she wanted to help him with. And that was not a good sign because obviously, like, that's not how you want to feel. And then Madison obviously was upset over those moments. So I think that, yeah, just the Mexico trip, I thought it was really going to end there. But they kept dating, or they were kept being engaged at that point. And they met each other's families and stuff too, which was crazy to see that. I was like, oh, so they were trying this? Like, it was
Mhm.
shocking. But at least Joe did end up ending it, so that was good, but
Yeah.
it
No, I
was
think that Joe is somebody who should have gone on like The Bachelor or Love
yeah,
Island. Like, I think that he is not mature. Like, I think that Love is Blind is similar to like Married at First Sight. I think is more for people who are a little older, a little more mature, ready
mhm,
for that commitment, and not. I don't think that Joe is that person. I don't think that he was actually ready to get married. I don't think that he was, mature and I just don't think that he handled it well. I think that he maybe thought he was ready, and as things got more serious, he checked out more and more, and just realized, oh, this is not for me. Like, I don't think that he's, from what we saw, I don't think that he's a bad guy. Like, I don't think that he did anything, in my opinion, at least, that would make me like really like hate him as a person. I just don't think that he was in the right relationship. I don't think that he handled it well, and I don't think he was ready to get married. And I just think that he was on the wrong show.
yeah. For sure, he definitely was not ready for marriage. That was obvious, I feel like, and just his demeanor and everything that was happening, it just he wasn't there to actually get married, but maybe he shouldn't have been on the show, but we got some good TV out of it, so it's okay.
Yeah.
But also in the reunion, we have the conversation with Madison saying that she was upset seeing how Joe said comments about her body, but Joe did apologize and said that they had a short conversation about exes and that he mentioned that he previously dated more petite women, but that he was attracted to Madison. So at least he apologized there. But I feel like we knew that he would have to apologize. Like you can't just not say sorry about that.
Yeah, that was not good. Okay, when I say that he's, a good guy, I don't like that comment that that
Yeah.
he made, and I think that was, yeah, I guess, okay, like you're talking about your exes, and she probably is looks different than who he's dated in the past. So, like, I believe
Mhm.
that, but I think that you have to be very careful with things like that with women and with anybody. And talking about anybody's body is a very, very careful, touchy subject that I think you should just avoid.
Yes, for sure. But then we get some information about how Joe went on dates with Casey after the season, but then it fizzled out. So I had seen rumors about this, not rumors, actually factual information from his now girlfriend that had said that Casey and Joe did go on dates. So I knew this already going into the reunion, but it was interesting seeing the placement of where they were both sitting, which was funny. But yeah, so Madison obviously not so happy about hearing this, and she found out about that at a pool party with the whole cast when Casey came up to her and told her that they're Eskimo sisters. And so Casey and Joe had broken up at that point, but she was complaining to Joe, complaining about Joe to Madison, and Madison was just like, why? Like, why are you doing this? And found it disrespectful. So obviously, the situation was interesting that Joe and Casey did end up dating after the show, but didn't really seem like it was going anywhere. They both kind of explained that it was too soon after the show and like timing wise, like it wasn't really gonna work out. But I think in the it's just drama and so many intertwining people, but it's interesting at least that we know now Joe's dating someone else. So it's like at least now we're like, okay, it's kind of in the past, like keep it there.
Yeah, I had seen this, but I think I kind of forgot about it. And then when it came up with the arena, I was like, oh yeah, wait, I think I did see that. And yeah, I guess I can see them together. Like, I guess, like, it's not like shocking to me that they kind of went through similar situations, like we kind of said. Like, they both, I don't think, immediately were attracted to their partners. And so I think that may be something that they kind of bonded over, is doing, well, she didn't really do this experience, but that they did the pods section of it at least. And they were, I guess, she that had him third on her list, did she say,
Yeah.
or he had her third? I can't remember. But
Yeah.
so it seemed like they did talk in the pods and had a decent connection. So yeah, I mean, the timing is maybe a little suspect, and I don't think that Casey should be going up to Madison complaining about Joe of all. Like,
No.
use common sense, please.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it seemed like it was just kind of a month and a half long relationship, nothing super, super major or serious. But I guess this probably isn't that uncommon that people, after they get off the show, would potentially try, go out on dates with other people from the pods that they connected with. And yeah, so that's not super surprising, I guess, to hear.
Yeah, I mean, last season there's still a successful couple from that of people
Yeah.
who did it after, and they're still together. So that's at least, I mean, not from this season, still is no one together, but at least there's potential for that to happen. And maybe they
Hmm.
saw that from last season and they're like, okay, like maybe we should try this too.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
look, we see it on Love Island, Iris and TJ.
yeah, it happens. So it's not out of the question there, but this was not going to work for Joe and Casey. They just weren't compatible in that way. But then also Madison does mention that she thought that Joe's connection with Casey during filming affected her relationship with Joe. So that was an interesting statement to bring up. I felt like, oh wow, like is Casey really affecting Joe here? But Joe denies it, and said that the story that says that Casey had nothing to do with the breakup. So it's just Madison kind of real like looking at it too deeply into that, like how they were together with her hands on his chest that night, and that affected it. But I think it just was heat of the moment. Madison was just like, okay, like this wasn't right.
Yeah, that was interesting to me. That I didn't. I certainly, I think I had seen about things about the relationship before this, but I certainly did not know that they had any sort of connection potentially during the filming
Mhm.
that would have affected Madison and Joe's relationship. So that was
Same.
very interesting to me. And that makes me wonder if that was also part of maybe why Joe was checked out a little bit. Is that maybe he had looked on Instagram at the very least, before Mexico or during Mexico, whenever they got their phones back and saw the other girls that maybe he was having talks with, connections with, and maybe he saw Casey and was like, that's who I should have gone for. And then maybe he was having regrets and thinking like, should I do kind of like, the Irina and Zach thing, where he went kind of went back and went with Bliss instead? Like, potentially those thoughts are maybe running through your mind, and you're thinking like, should I have gone for somebody else? And maybe it did affect things, and
Yeah.
who knows? I don't know, but it's interesting that Casey and Joe were potentially allegedly being touchy feely, and then he breaks up with Madison the next day. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like I feel like there's so many factors into it. It's not like the end all, like that's the only reason why, but I definitely think it had somewhat to do with the breakup for sure.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if he wasn't totally all in on Madison, then don't be with Madison. So it's good that he broke up with her, but definitely could have probably broken up with her before that if he wasn't feeling that way all along.
Yeah, like I don't think that it was like the full like I don't think that Casey was on his mind 24/7 for all those weeks. But I do think that potentially he saw her, or
Yeah.
and maybe other women that he was having good long conversations within the pods, and saw Madison, realized, "Ooh, I'm not that attracted to her and I don't know what to do. I don't know how to handle this." And so he was kind of drinking a lot in Mexico, wanting to go to his room and be alone, probably overthinking everything, and not sure what to do, and then tried to give it a chance and make it work, and he just wasn't really giving it his full all because he wasn't in it. And then Hat starts to get to know Casey a little bit more, and talk with her, and then decides, okay, this isn't going to work with Madison. Things are getting too serious. Breaks up with her, and then gives it enough time to where it doesn't look suspicious, and then tries to have a relationship with Casey that doesn't work out either, and now is with his current girlfriend Avery. And is there an overlap there between Casey and Avery? Who knows?
I know. The explanation that Joe was talking about with his current girlfriend too, I was like, is he even dating Avery? Like the way that they started dating was like, I don't know, like random. What I can't even recall what exactly he said because it didn't make sense. But it just seemed like he was just claiming like they were casual and all this stuff. And I don't know if Avery would say the same. But what Joe was saying seemed that they weren't totally official for a while, but then they did become official, it seems like now. I mean, obviously I think they're official now. But Avery is friends with Kate, who is from this season as well. She did not get engaged, but she connected them. So that's interesting.
And we're about to hear a lot more from Kate.
Yeah. So let's get into it with Nick and Annie plus Kate as we get the next segment here in the reunion. But first, let's talk about Nick and Annie's relationship and their journey overall throughout the season. So I feel like, from my perspective of them, they just were not going to work out. I honestly thought Annie would have been a better match with Brendan at that point when I was seeing them in the pods. But then now looking back, I'm like, okay, maybe it wasn't the best. Like Annie and Brendan either. But Annie and Brendan also wouldn't have worked out probably too. So I think it makes sense that she did end up choosing Nick here. But Nick just, I feel like is I don't even know. Their relationship was just all over the place, and never really seemed to be very steady. And I just think they just were not meant to be. I don't really have many more details. I feel like it just overall was not good.
Yeah, this was my least favorite couple.
Yeah,
I can't with Nick. Everything about him seems so disingenuous, so
yeah,
rehearsed. I really, really never connected with Nick. And Annie, I mean, look, I never liked them from the moment they had that conversation, if not before that, about what they would do if they found out their kid was part of the LGBTQ plus community. Like that,
yeah,
just like, okay, we're done. Let's move on.
exactly.
So yeah, never really connected with either of them, and honestly, just didn't. I thought their relationship seemed relatively strong for like the first part of when they met, and I was like, okay, seems like they have a lot in common, and maybe they can make it work. But then very quickly, you could tell like, no, this is a mess.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, when they said the stuff about LGBTQ kids, I was like, well, this isn't good. I
And
don't
you could
want to
tell
see
they
that.
thought they were being so progressive, and
No.
it's just like, oh, it was so annoying. Sorry.
I know. That was crazy. But in the reunion, we see Nick apologizing to Kate for how he handled their breakup in the pods. So that was good, at least from Nick's side, that he did take accountability, or he said he failed to take accountability and use religion as an excuse. But then Kate said that she received an apology from him from DM once he heard that she was going to be at the reunion, so that she didn't really think this apology was genuine. So yet again, another thing that Nick is seeming to be calculated here. But Annie did disagree. She chimed in and said that she thought he was being genuine. So that was interesting, seeing this all unfold here on the reunion.
Yeah, it seemed like Annie and Nick are in a good place. They probably have a decent relationship still because she was defending him like the whole
Yeah.
reunion, and Kate was not. Kate was going after him quite a bit, and I loved every minute of it. So yeah, I don't believe anything he said at this reunion was genuine. It really did feel like kind of what Kate said, where it was like it's like you looked at ChatGPT and was like how to apologize, how to what to say to somebody. Like it's like everything just feels so like it's scripted and like he's trying to say the right thing at all times and doesn't believe a word he's saying.
Yeah, for sure. Because then here, as you said, Annie defended Nick again with the love bombing accusations. And she's been saying how everything is accelerated in the pod so that they're quicker to say things like "I love you" than they normally would in normal life. But then Nick said that he didn't like how he handled juggling two women, and also that's not a normal life situation that you're in usually. So I feel like in this apology, I guess, or saying how he didn't like how he handled it, like obviously, like it's not a great situation to be in here.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like, look, I can't disagree with anything he's saying, but I don't believe that he believes what he's saying. So it's like, what's the point?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And Annie also said that watching the show back that she saw that she was trying to force a relationship. So that I think was obvious on my side. I was like, yeah, like she doesn't really like I don't know what she sees in this. I think it's just more just her wanting to feel that she was being chosen, and then when he was not choosing her, then that was making her want to make it even more so that he wanted her. But obviously they just were not meant to be. But they are friendly now, and so that's at least good. And that she does not regret picking Nick over Brendan. So at least that was good to see that they're on good terms overall. And it's good that they did break up in the show because it was not meant to be.
No, it definitely was not. And yeah, I think she's right. I think she was trying to force it. I think she was trying to deny reality when he was breaking up with her. And she clearly, I mean, she was drinking a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that all of that kind of had to do with her just kind of wanting to not face what was right in front of her and that she was really trying to make it work. And it just was trying to fit around square peg in a round hole. Like it just wasn't going to work. But she thought it was, and it took her a while to really come to terms with that.
Yeah, for sure. I think just in that moment, you're never wanting to feel the rejection, but then looking
Yeah,
back on it, you're like, okay, yeah, this was good. This is good that this does not work out now,
exactly.
because they're not meant to be together. Another couple not meant to be together, Allie and Anton. So actually, I felt like out of all of the couples that went into the weddings here, that like they actually could have gotten married, but they did not. So Ali did say no to Anton at the altar. He did say yes at first, so that was surprising. But they just had different lifestyles in general, or like Ali wasn't expecting certain things that she learned about Anton after the pods, because in the pods, like they seemed like very, very strong. It seemed like they could make it work. But obviously, then when you hit to real life, like it's like, okay, this isn't the way I thought you were, or just like more pressure environment that's just causing Anton in particular to drink more than Ali had thought he would. So with that, I think that obviously was not good for Allie to see that. And also the information she heard about the strip clubs and that how she thought that he never went to them and all of that she just was surprised to hear about, and she couldn't see herself ended up marrying him. So I think it was for the best. They also broke up here. But it was definitely interesting to see their relationship evolve. So what did you think, Michael?
Yeah, I agree with you that I thought that this was potentially going to be the one couple that made it, if any of them were going to. And I mean, I guess Sparkle Megan and Jordan, I thought also had a good chance. But besides them, I think that Ali and Anton were they were my number one and two, and so I yeah, I thought this was that couple that was just kind of like didn't really have a lot of issues for the most part. Like they really got along really well, and it felt like that there was this one moment that happened where his friend or his friend's girlfriend said that he was partying and going to strip clubs and all that stuff, and so I guess they never brought it up, which was crazy to me. Like they never had a conversation about it. But I really thought that was because she was over it. Like she, had been like, okay, that's not the Anton that I see, and I don't necessarily I can't go based off of just what your friend's girlfriend said. So I'm just gonna kind of let that be in the past and not let that affect us too much. But on the contrary, it seems like that maybe she didn't bring it up because she believed it and she just didn't need him to deny it and have a fight about it, but she just kind of let it fester in her mind, and that just kind of she couldn't see things the same after that again, and it seemed like that was a big turning point in their relationship, and then yeah, she just couldn't get past it.
Yeah, and Anton said that that friend and that girlfriend are no longer together. So
No.
he just thought that girl just wanted her 15 minutes of fame or 1 minute of fame. And explaining that situation because he said she just didn't even know him. So it wasn't even a fair judgment to have, which is also interesting. So it's like, okay, well, like, was if this actually came up in conversation, Anton could state like what he actually was doing and that he wasn't going to strip clubs, like, would Ali have actually gotten married to him? Like, I don't know if that was the main reason or there were other things there as well.
Yeah, it
But
did seem like they had other issues
yeah,
about like their schedules just were tough, and that they weren't, like, I mean we'll get into it, but like that they wouldn't have like those deeper conversations, and that he was just kind of tired all the time. So like I get it. Like there were other issues too. Now look, if that girl's looking for her 15 minutes of fame, where is she? I want to
yeah,
hear her perspective now.
I know. I want to see it.
Yeah.
But I don't
I
know
want
if
to be
she
able to
will.
call her thirsty.
Yeah. Exactly. Like it's like, okay, like you can claim it, but she's not doing anything. So Anton's now
Yeah.
the one. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, it just didn't seem like with Allie bringing up the things with Anton just not wanting to have those serious conversations. Like, obviously, that's a big thing in a relationship. And like, if they had those in the pods, like, obviously, you would expect to have that in real life. But Anton was just tired. So he just didn't want to do it, which isn't a good excuse, also. Like, it's like you
Mhm.
have this only amount of time to get to know someone before you're saying yes or no at the altar. So, like, you should probably have more conversations with the person you think you're going to marry
Mhm.
before that happens. But obviously, then we see them not get married. And we did get an update, though, that Anton has been in a relationship with his current girlfriend, Miranda, for the past year. She was in the audience. And then Allie refuses to talk about her dating life. She wants to keep that private.
Okay,
But
Huda. You gonna
but
blame Netflix?
yeah,
Yeah, like
I know. It did give me somewhat of a Huda vibe. I was like, Allie, like what? You gave your whole life and now you're trying to be private again.
I'm sorry. If
Um,
you go on a dating show, you cannot, for the duration of this dating show, you don't get to keep your dating life private. That's ridiculous. I'm sorry. Like anything after the reunion, sure, be as private as you want to be, go back into, being a private person. But for the duration of when you were on this show, when you're on the reunion, like you don't have to give any details. You don't have to give their name if you don't want to. But like don't do that. Don't be this private person all of a sudden when you signed up to be on this show.
exactly. I know. I was annoyed about that. But good to see that they're both moved on, at least from the situation, and that doesn't seem like there's really any bad blood for the most part. So that's good.
Yeah.
And next up, we have Edmund and Calabria, or KB. And I feel like this had issues from all along. I feel like, I mean, not all along, but in general, like it just never really seemed that it was gonna work. And so I'm surprised they even made it to get to the altar before saying no at the altar, or Calabria saying no, Edmund saying yes. So I feel like their relationship just wasn't gonna work because of many reasons, but and overall they just weren't compatible, and I was just happy that Calabria said no and she stood up for herself. So that was good to see that. I love Calabria.
Yeah, to me what it felt like with this couple was that most of their issues were things that were happening off camera. And then he would be dismissive of her. He would act out in public or whatever it was, and she would, they would get into a fight, and then the cameras would go up and he pretended like everything was okay and he was so in love with her, and they were a perfect couple. And I think that annoyed her because she wanted to be authentic. She couldn't act. And so I think that my feeling about it is I think that he is a very emotional person, and I think that he would kind of have these moments, had these outbursts, whether it be at her or somebody else in front of her in public, whatever that would embarrass her, whatever it might be. But he's the type of person who he doesn't find that to be an issue. Like I think that he is just like that's how he handles situations, is just being this very expressive emotional person. And so I think she would get mad at him or annoyed with him or whatever, and he would think like what's the issue? Like we are good. I think it was just, that was a moment. And for her it was like no, this is a pattern. This is not good. Like and he didn't see that. And so for him they are good probably, but in her mind no, we're not good. We have issues to work out because you just did this and this and this to me. And so I just think in that way they just weren't compatible, and she probably maybe didn't handle those moments well, and he obviously did not handle, can't handle his emotions very well. And so I just think like in that way they just clash and it was never going to work.
Yeah, for sure. And other parts of it being like off camera stuff, which we couldn't see all of that, which was annoying for that too, because then we'd only see like they're rehashing it. And obviously it's like the he said, she said, whatever of it all. So obviously, like that's not ideal for understanding all the fights and things that were happening off camera, or things that were said off camera and then them talking about it. But I think KB has like a really, really good way of discussing conflict. Like I was really impressed with her in terms of like bringing things up and setting up for herself, or just like acknowledging, like she's very, very emotionally intelligent versus Edmund not being
Yeah.
emotionally intelligent. So I was like, there's a big, big level difference here, in terms of the conversations and how they can express themselves for both parties. So I think, yeah, it just was not great to see those conversations always, and seeing that obviously it wasn't going to work out. So I think that's also good that that did not end up
Yeah.
in a marriage.
Yeah, and I think, she said that she saw the emotions eventually as being manipulative,
Yeah.
and that anytime he was called out for something, he would just start crying, start, being emotional, and that was a way for him to get out of being having to have a hard conversation, and eventually like that it was, and she said that, I think she said this really well. It was like, it's not the crying that's manipulative. It's the moments when you're crying that are manipulative. It's like that it just so happens to be that you get all emotional when you're being called out. And
Mhm,
I think that, yeah, like KB did such a good job at this reunion, I thought, of explaining things and not, but coming across as very sympathetic to him,
mhm,
and like not angry towards him, not trying to start a fight with him, but being like, no, I want you to learn for future relationships that this is how I saw things. And maybe I didn't handle it well, and you shouldn't accept the way that I handled situations with you at the time, but that these are the things that you do that were frustrating to me. And I want that, I know that you don't see it that way, and maybe I was wrong about your intentions, but I think that a lot of people saw it the way that I do as well when they were watching it on TV, and like, you need to know that this is how it comes across. And I think that she did that beautifully. And you could tell she was nervous. She had her notes, but like, she didn't need them, and she was
yeah,
great without them. And I thought that, yeah, the way that she broke things down was great. And I really do believe after this reunion, because I was with her, that I thought it was manipulative before the reunion, but I do think that as he explained it at the reunion, like, I don't think that he views it that way. Really, I think that he just, that's how he handles situations, and he's not good at controlling his emotions. And I just think that he needs maybe to work with somebody on that, because that's not a good thing. But I don't know that it's actually like manipulative or intentional.
yeah, for sure. I don't think it was intentional because I mean Edmund also denied being manipulative, but I feel like obviously like if KB was feeling that way, like that's her right to feel however she was feeling. So I think Edmund just needs to work on that, and own up to it more, because he also denied claimed that he didn't remember things that KB was
Mhm.
bringing up in terms of what was happening in situations like from when they were together. So that was also interesting to see that happen, like when they were talking about that on the reunion. And then Vanessa Lachey came in and said that she said maybe it was a defense mechanism for him to forget those bad memories because he couldn't say he could remember any of them. So I feel like Vanessa was trying to help him out there, but
Yeah.
maybe he just didn't want to look like a bad guy on TV.
Mhm. No, and I believe, like, you forget, you just like, and your mind just kind of
Yeah,
intentionally forgets those bad moments. And so I believe that, it was a long time ago. They filmed this in like
that's true.
1975. So I believe it.
I know it's been a long time. So I definitely think there's parts of it he definitely was truthful in saying he forgot. So that's true.
Yeah.
But they ended up being ending on good terms here. So they ended up hugging and apologizing. So that was good to see, at least that they're not on any bad blood here either. So that's our last couple to talk about from Love is Blind season 9. So, any final thoughts here on the season as we wrapped it up?
No, like I said, I enjoyed it. I think that it was a decent season. Not one of my top seasons, but not one of the very bottom ones as well. I thought it was decent. And I just think for the future, I just hope that it's all about casting. I think that, in terms of the structure, episode length, time they spend on pods, I think they did a much better job this season. So I think if you can just kind of stick with that and just, maybe cast a more emotionally mature people. Like, we're seeing on Married at First Sight this season. I think that if you kind of cast in that direction, maybe a wider variety of ages and things like that, like I think that they can, potentially get more successful couples. Because I think it's always best when you have a good balance of couples that are, good and healthy and successful, and then the couples that bring the mess and the drama. So I think, a mix of that would make a perfect season to me.
Yes, for sure. And they're actually casting from Austin.
Hmm.
So that's fun. It'll be interesting to see who they end up casting for that season. But as this comes to a close, we have to look forward to the next season of Love is Blind and hope that we do get some marriages maybe next time.
I hope
But
so.
we don't need them because we got the drama.
Yeah. No, I think a good mix is good. So I hope that we can have at least one or two successful couples to come out of the next season. I think that would be good for the health of the show
Yeah.
to have, good examples come from, from at least every couple seasons, good healthy couples to come from it and remind us that this show can produce good relationships and there is an actual reason to go on it, not just for your 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah. And if you're in the Netflix universe, you can then get into Perfect Match or other shows too that
Mhm.
maybe you'll find someone from that.
Never know.
But so you never know. But that wraps up our episode today. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and follow us on social media at Let's Chat Reality. And we'll be back again next week. Thanks so much for listening.
Bye, everyone.